Hello, welcome back to Rabbits Forever. Today I want to show you how to properly pose a commercial breed. So really with any breed, you want their toes, so these hind toes to line up with the bend of their knee. So right now, his are actually lined up pretty well right now. But right at the bend of the knee, this is called the flank. And then you're also wanting their front toes to line up with their eye. So for him, this right here would be a proper pose. A perfect little pose. And today I also want to go over how to properly judge a commercial breed as well, like what you're looking for before you purchase the animal in the pictures or video, or if you have your hands on them. This boy is still very young, so he still has a lot of growing to do and a lot of developing, and you have to remember that. You have to remember that as you're looking at a young rabbit. So he's probably about 9 weeks old right now. Sorry, that's my dog. He's probably about 9 weeks old right now, so he's still very young, and I'm amazed he's actually letting me work with him like this. But, so that is how you properly pose them. You want them nice and scrunched up. You want their toes properly lined up in the proper areas. And you don't want to overpose them. So like this, you'll see it chop off and the toes are way over by the shoulders. You don't want to see that. It gives them more depth look, but it's going to screw up their type. And then another one I see a lot is like this. So they just plop their rabbit down on the table. It really doesn't show, sorry I have bugs. It really doesn't show any depth. You can kind of see the type, where their peak and stuff is, but you're not gonna see this nice depth that he has. And he's just gonna get deeper too, the older he gets. Daisy, knock it off. Sorry, my dog's spooking them, so. But I've learned the best way to scrunch them up nicely and keep their hind quarters nice and wide too, instead of having them kind of flail around a little bit, is to take your fingers like this. Take your fingers like this and put it right in between their hocks and just kind of scrunch them forward a little bit. Just gently move them forward. Don't just squish them up really fast or hard, because then that's just going to spook your animal. And nobody wants that, because then it's not going to work for you. They're not going to work well with you. But from this side view, what you're going to be looking for when you get a properly posed photo, or if you're just evaluating one of your animals, is you want to see their depth. So the depth is from the table to the top of their loin. And he has some pretty nice depth. Satins in general usually have pretty nice depth. Some animals not so much, but satins in general, the ones that I've seen that are around me, typically have some pretty decent depth. You also want to look for shoulder length. He has slightly long shoulders, because you want this rise, so this rise right here, to start right at the base of the neck. His shoulders are a tad bit long, but they're not long enough for me to really worry too much about, because typically this is easier to work with. His is about maybe 1.5 fingers, 2 fingers long, which that's easier to work with than if you have something that starts way back, and that is hard to deal with. The other thing you want to look for is their peak. The peak for me is very important, especially while I'm looking at animals. While I was evaluating the rabbits that I had a choice from, I personally thought that he had the best peak out of all of them, as well as the shortest shoulders. And how you can tell that is you just kind of gently glide your hand across, and as your hand starts going down, you can tell that the peak's about right here. His are about square over that little bit over that flank, a little bit past it. So his flank's probably right here and his peak's probably about right here, which that's easier to work with, but I would prefer what it's supposed to be is see his hip right here. His peak should be right here, right where my hand is, and his is about right here ish. And so it's difficult to move back a peak while breeding, but if you know what you're doing, then you can do it. It's not that hard, and as he ages, it is possible to see that peak go back. I never got to look at his parents while evaluating, so I don't know what his parents looked like. I am just hoping and crossing my fingers. Honestly, I just got him because I love the color chinchilla. That's the reason why I ended up getting him. Now, another thing, I'm going to have to adjust my camera for this one, but another thing you want to look for while evaluating a rabbit is their flank. So their rear. Come on. Good boy. Good boy. No. I'm not used to posing with my right hand, so this might not end up as well as I'm hoping. He's also seeing my dogs, and since he's young, he's still not used to them. Hey. Okay. Alright. Let's see. Alright. So as you see, this is his rear. He's a tad bit pinched in this loin, which can be caused because his peak is a bit further forward. So if it moves back, so if it moves back, hopefully, what I'm hoping for is that if his peak does move back, that rear end will fill in. That's what I'm hoping for. Come on. Hey. And at this age, they are harder, more difficult to fight with and pose because they're just not used to it quite yet. But yeah, you see that loin, you want that to be nice and round. You don't want to see these little divots, how it just sloughs off right there. Hey! But you don't want to see it slough off right there. And another thing you want to look at, which I don't think you can see from this view, but you want to see where their hocks hit the table. Now, an easier way to see this is actually flipping your animal over. And he is a little pinched to the table. But see how his feet are a little angled in? He is still pretty wide. So I'm not too worried about that. I think compared to some other rabbits that I have seen, he's better quality. You want to see these completely parallel and straight with the table. So another easier way is just push their feet down. But right now he's kind of just moving around. But yeah, so you can do that and see how wide his feet are. And that's really nice to see because then you know they have a nice wide base, and that will give you kind of an indicator, especially on a young rabbit, that his hindquarters are going to develop very nicely. And that's the basics of judging and learning how to pose and evaluate what you're getting in your stock. And the more you work with them, the better they'll be at posing. But hopefully this helps you guys. And always focus on type before color. His color's really nice. He is a chinchilla. And I have worked with the Goodies before. But as I said, always focus on type before color. Because you want color's a lot easier to work with and get a good animal out of, but type, on the other hand, is very difficult because you're playing with the genetics of the bone structure. So it's a lot more difficult to get a really nice typed animal than a good color. So always purchase for type rather than color, as I said. Alright, thank you for watching. I hope this helps you guys. Have a wonderful day.